Hey guys, hello, and welcome to the In the Mixer podcast, a brand new football podcast we've created because we know more than anyone else about football than other podcasts. My name is Phil. I'll be your host this evening, morning, lunchtime, I guess, whenever you're listening to this. And I have got with me two brilliant footballing minds. The first is Michael. Say hello, Michael.
Hello?
And Elias as well.
Hey.
That is the interesting fact. We don't introduce Elias without mentioning the fact he's Swedish.
You didn't also introduce me without mentioning the fact that I'm injured as well.
Oh yes, Michael has a problem.
Yeah, I'll explain the problem.
Mental
So
illness.
I have,
Even though you've said you have an issue with talking, but go on.
yeah, I have a semi-issue with talking in that I've just had major surgery on my mouth and I'm in a lot of pain. I've had like a minor tooth operation thing done, so I'm in a little bit of pain, but it shouldn't restrict me too much. But if there's any words that sound like they're not actually meant to be that word, it's probably because my mouth's slightly numb, so just bear with me.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Right, basically, we are very excited to be doing this podcast, extremely excited, and here at the In the Mixer podcast, we'll be telling you everything we know and we think about football. Whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't really matter. So this first episode, the first ever episode of this podcast, we will be covering groups A and B of the Euros. This is primarily going to be a Premier League podcast, but as we're obviously new, we're going to be going over the Euros almost as a trial run. Would you agree? That's pretty much what this is.
Yeah.
Trying to
Yeah.
find our feet as a podcast and see, what we.
Yeah, and see what works best for us, things like that.
Exactly. So this first episode will be groups A and B. So it's going to be 3 preview episodes of the Euros, and then we're going to go straight into the Euros with reviews of the games and all that jazz. So, do you want to just get straight into it, guys, or
Let's do it.
anyone
Yeah.
want to say anything else?
Yeah,
I think we should just run straight into it.
I could add something. Michael was
Oh,
saying that his words might not sound like right. Mine might not do it either because I'm Swedish, as they said. So if I mispronunciate something, then yeah, that's because I'm
Yeah.
Swedish. Okay, let's go.
If you do find anything offensive, you could always follow and tweet us at In the Mixer Show on Twitter.
Yeah.
Is it In the Mixer
In
Show?
the
I
Mixer
think that's on
Show,
Twitter.
yes.
Anyway, you'll find it. Just type In the Mixer podcast, and you will probably find it. So, how do you want to cover this first group then? Do you want to go favourites and host nation first? It seems only right we go with France first.
Do France first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
France.
Yes.
All right. So,
So France, considered one of the favourites of the tournament, I would say, and lots of
I think-
experts.
yeah.
Definitely.
They've had quite a rough defensively effort against the teams. I've got the 3 last games that they played upcoming to this event or this tournament, and they have played against Cameroon, Russia, and Netherlands. They've scored 3 goals against Cameroon, 4 goals against Russia, and 3 goals against Netherlands.
Bang.
But they have also let in a lot of goals. Well, 2 goals in each of the games. But it's looking good attacking wise. But what I think with France is that they need to figure out the defensive work and get the centre backs to work together, because as we know, Varane and Zuma are both out injured.
Oh,
Which
rather,
could be
they're injured. Okay.
Yeah, they're both injured, so that will be a massive blow for them.
I was going to say, obviously, a lot has been said about
Yeah.
Benzema being left out, and they've had a
Yeah.
couple of strikers have been left out. Obviously, you say there they've been scoring a lot of goals. So obviously, that's not really as big an issue as people are making out. Then
They've got so many informed players in the midfield, and they also got Benzema. I see that as a weakness that Benzema is absent in this
Okay.
squad, but they've got really good replacements for him. Like they've got Martial, who's in form, Manchester United striker. They've got Griezmann, who's in great form. He scored 26 goals, I think, in the La Liga this season. And Giroud, who's decent for the national team.
yeah,
Not like great for Arsenal this season. But yeah, I think they got a good replacements, and that adds in with the midfield being so well balanced and creative. So they don't really they help out so much with the goal scoring.
yeah.
They actually scored, I think it was 80% of their goals in these 3 games, something like that, from set pieces.
Oh, really?
Which
Wow.
is so
It's
So is that-
quite
is
a
that
lot.
Is that Payet then?
Payet scored two free kicks against Cameroon and Russia, and Griezmann scored against Netherlands. So they've obviously got something going in the set-piece department.
Obviously, there wasn't...
And,
Sorry. Go
yeah.
on. No, I was just going to say, obviously there is a lot of... when Payet, obviously, he was called up rather late compared to what people... Obviously, he had a fantastic season this season with West Ham, and people were saying he should be in the French squad, and obviously he wasn't picked till quite late on. Deschamps was under, obviously, a lot of pressure to pick him. Do you think that will affect him at the Euros? Do you think he will literally be starting every game, taking every set piece?
He won't be taking every set piece, I think, but he'll definitely be starting for France, because he is the most informed player. You can see Griezmann as one of the most informed players as well, but I think Payet's got he's in such great form that you can't deny him a spot.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I think that's kind of what helps France become favourites, in that individually, for like players for their clubs are also in really good form.
Yeah.
Like I know we were saying Benzema's not been picked, but Griezmann and Martial have both been in fantastic individual form, so it makes that exclusion of Benzema seem slightly insignificant. I think that's going to really help them.
It's going to be
in the Euros if they can follow the form in, of course. But we will have to wait.
It's going to be interesting to see what Deschamps actually picks as the first 11, because they've got Gignac on the bench as well. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but and they also got they've been playing with Giroud and Griezmann up front, and Payet as a 4-3-3 mainly, and evolves that into a 4-5-1 or 4-4-2 when they're attacking, and they actually just bring. Gignac on when they need some strength up front, when Giroud's not cutting it, or when Griezmann is not having the best day of his life. These bring Gignac on, and he's a prolific goal scorer. He can score for both national team and for his Mexican club, Tigres, I think he's playing for now.
Yeah, I know he's in Mexico. I don't know who he plays for.
Yeah, I think he's got like 30 goals this season.
But
he's been
he's been around that French squad. Whether you can justify it or not, he's been around that French squad. He's always included. When he was at Marseille, people were saying people should be picked over him. He seems to always be in that French squad. So obviously, he's very good for the national team.
He continues to deliver. Like, he's 31 years old now, I think, and he's not looking any worse than he was a few years ago at Marseille when he was banging in them goals.
In them goals.
But in them goals, yeah. But as I said, like, they've got really good attacking players. The defense is a bit lacking, because the wing backs are getting old. You can't really... I don't think Clichy got involved in the squad at all.
No, it's Evra and Digne are the left backs.
Yeah, and they got Sagna and Jallet as the right backs. All of them are quite... Like, Digne is 22, 23. But other than that, Jallet is 33. Sagna is also 33. And Evra is 35. So they haven't really got that youth going in the wing backs. And that makes them lack in pace down the wings. So I think if Deschamps decides to start Moussa Sissoko and maybe Payet or Kingsley Coman out wide, they're gonna need to help a lot defensively and start to track back. So because they will be lacking in pace.
So with those fullbacks, then, do you think that that's something that can be exploited in this group, or do you think that won't be found out till later in the tournament?
It has been exploited, and I've been watching the games against Cameroon and Russia, and the both goals Cameroon and Russia score are from the wings. Like, they are crosses, and they just get past either... I think it was Sagna and Evra who was playing the majority of those games. And they get exploited quite massively. So
yeah, I think I was just going to add, I think that is probably France's weakness.
It definitely is the biggest.
Their biggest weakness going into the... Because we talked about Gignac being relatively old as a striker. I think France's team strength is how young and how in form, and like these players are just bursting onto the international scene that are performing fantastically for the clubs and whatever, whereas their fullbacks are just... Like, they've had that time where they were the young, vibrant players has gone now, and they don't have anybody to sort of fill out that position.
They're very much
at
very much the black sheep in this team.
Yeah, so with the young players and having a player like Gignac to back up those young players, attacking is great, but they don't have that in defensively, which is, and obviously the injuries to Varane and Zuma are massive, I think.
I've also put it's not only the outfield players that makes the team great, it's also a goalkeeper that's been in really good form this season, and Lloris, you can't not say he's been one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League. And he also some goalkeepers actually struggle at an international level or national level, but Lloris is a keeper that is super consistent.
So I believe we've spoken enough about France. Let's move on to the next team we're going to talk about. I think we're going to talk about Albania next, because I think we agree they're the weakest team in this group and possibly the entire tournament. They haven't got many well-known players, many star-studded players at all. The only one I've ever heard of is Lorit Chana, who is their captain, who had time in the Premier League with Sunderland. I mean, they're not here by chance. They've obviously got through a tough group with Serbia, who admittedly had a point deduction, but they still would have gone through even with those. They still would have gone out with those points added, and of course they finished above a Denmark side and beat Portugal in that qualification group. So do you guys think they can cause problems for any of these teams? Obviously you've got France, like you said, Elias, with a fantastic front line. Switzerland on their day can beat anybody. Romania have some players. Are Albania actually going to cause any problems in this group?
No.
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 I think it's safe to say that they're probably the worst team at the Euros, so causing any problems in the group is just not.
I don't see them having any star players or anything that will actually stand out for them, so I don't think they can get part. I don't think I'm just going to say I don't think they're going to score any goals.
You don't think they're going to score any goals? I mean, qualifying would agree with you there, because they didn't actually score many goals in their qualifying campaign.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, perhaps they could score. I mean, them getting out of that group possibly would be the biggest shock at this entire Euros, unless, of course, England win it. So, next we will talk about Switzerland, because Albania really is tough to talk about Albania. So we'll just go straight on to Switzerland.
Yeah, so I actually think Switzerland, on paper, are relatively strong. They qualified really well. They lost just 3 games of their 10 qualifiers, and 2 of those were to England, who were the strongest team in their group. But in their squad, there is no Gökhan Inler, the Leicester midfielder, who's been left out, but has been replaced as captain by Grant Xhaka, who's, of course, recently just moved to Arsenal. They do have a really strong squad, even though they have Dermic out injured, and have also left Senderos at home, who's probably too old, maybe. I'm not too sure why he's really been left out. The odds for them to win are 50-1, which I think is a little bit unfair, but I guess their recent form does kind of support that. They've just won 1 in their last 5. Like, lost 3-2 to Slovakia, Republic of Ireland. They lost 1-0, Bosnia, and then were beat by Belgium. And I think 3 of those games, maybe the one against Belgium you can exclude, but 3 of those games were winnable. But they're a team that's really good going forward. They have a lot of strong attacking players, Barami, and then Shaqiri, Mehmedi, and then Seferovic is a natural goal scorer as well. And then with Xhaka in form and getting his big move to Arsenal, it could give him a confidence boost to maybe send them to be a bit more, I don't know, send him to be a bit better on the international stage, but obviously he's rather unproven, internationally. But their weakest point is their defence, I think, with Giroud at the back and Shah as centre-back, and then Liechtensteiner and Rodriguez are relatively attacking full-backs, which I think is why Switzerland, like their main strength is attacking. So I think they'll potentially finish second in the group. I don't think they'll beat France, but I don't think they'll win the Euros either, just because of how their form has been recently. But in the World Cup, they surprised everybody. They nearly beat Argentina, who obviously went on to be in the final, and it took extra time for Switzerland to go out to them. But I just think they'll concede silly goals and won't score enough for them to really excel in the tournament. I think a lot of the defences will shut down their big threats.
So obviously the thing go on.
That's one thing with the attacking nations, if you call them that, is that their defence will be so attacking, at least the fullbacks, so they won't have any cover. And Jan Sommer, I think, is the first goalkeeper
Yeah,
He's really good. Like he was really good against the European teams in the Europa League and the Champions League a few years ago. But I don't feel like he's an international goalkeeper. I don't think he'll make the cut.
Because of course they have Roman Burki also, and I think everyone's expecting Sommer to start, but I think Burki could feel a little bit disheartened because he's had an excellent season for Dortmund this year. Yeah. And although being a Schalke fan, it pains me to say it, he probably was one of the best goalkeepers in the Bundesliga this year, definitely in the top 5, probably makes it there about 5th. So he could give Sommer a run for his money, but I just don't think he'll start. And I think defensively, no matter how good the goalkeeper Switzerland are going to put in there, I think defensively they'll be let down. Yeah. I think another big threat they could have is from set pieces. Of course, they've got Shaqiri from Stoke, who's going to be big on free kicks and also corners. Like I said, Seferovic is a natural goal scorer from set pieces. He could cause a lot of issues, and Rodriguez is a prolific free kick taker, although hasn't had the best season this season in the Bundesliga. So it's what Switzerland really turns up. I think if a free-flowing, goal-scoring Switzerland could cause a few problems and definitely shake up the tournament a bit, but I still don't think it'll be good enough to beat the front runners.
Well, my personal opinion on Switzerland is they're one of those. They're such an inconsistent team. It seems to me they've got all these good individuals. Well, I mean, it's completely arguable because they have these individuals like Shaqiri, like Xhaka, and all this. But I mean, we saw last season Shaqiri didn't exactly light the league set the league alight, like a lot of people said he would when he first joined Stoke.
Yeah.
I mean, are these players? I mean, in the literal sense of the word, are a lot of the Switzerland team overrated? That's what I'm trying to say.
It's hard to say.
I don't. It's such a difficult team to judge. I mean, one of their big goal scorers in the qualifying was Dermich, who's just had knee surgery, so he's not going to be playing, which is going to be a massive loss. But like the fact that you'd think Shaqiri and Seferovic, you'd easily put Shaqiri as a player that's 10 times better than Seferovic, but they had really similar qualifying performances. So it's just whether Shaqiri can turn up on an international stage, which he's failed to do in the Premier League. And I think another player I'll mention alongside Seferovic is Brelin Bolo.
Yeah.
I
know a lot of people know him as sort of a wonder kid, but he's only 19. Doesn't really have any international experience or experience in any big leagues, but has performed for them in the qualifiers when he's come off the bench with goals and assists. I think he only had 1 goal in the qualifying, but had 3 assists. But I don't know whether he's fit. I know he's been taken, but I don't think he's 100% fit, and I think it's something he'll have to prove himself, and I don't think he'll start, which is a bit of a blow for them because Seferovic isn't in the best of form, especially with how Frankfurt did this year.
I can see the midfield having a bit of problems because if you look like which players they're playing Berame, they're playing Xhaka, and they're playing Zemaili or Mehmedi, and Berame is known for being dirty, real dirty. Especially for Watford this season when he's come off the bench and played. But Xhaka also has he got like 7 red cards in the Bundesliga and he's 23? Something like that.
I don't know how many he has in total.
That's a pretty phenomenal record. That's Sergio Ramos numbers, that is.
Yeah.
And it is, especially with Zemaili as well, when he played for Napoli, he was not the cleanest of players. So I think the midfield, if they can keep themselves composed and not get like stupid red cards and bookings, then they could be really solid. But if they start to lose the composure and start just getting stuck into tackles, I think they're gonna struggle with having a full midfield at the end of the group stage.
Good point.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because they've only taken 6 midfielders. Yeah. And so, any of those, if they lose any of those midfielders, they're going to see a significant drop in the quality of their midfield. I know they've taken a young 19-year-old as their 6th midfielder. So I think that's a really important point that they really do have to have those 3 midfielders, or Berame, Xhaka, and Jamali starting. Otherwise, they're going to reduce the strength of their team a massive amount. And like you mentioned, that some of those players are renowned. I know Xhaka got, I know he definitely got a ban in the Bundesliga for yellow cards this season. So I think he got probably 6 or 7. So I think I take your point there. I think it's safe to say that they could run into problems with that. But it's a short competition, so...
Well, it's as long as the World Cup now, of course.
Yeah, but I think it's still a knockout competition. At the end of the day,
okay,
even
I
though
see
it
what
has
you
the
mean.
group stage
Okay.
and whatever. Yeah, I just don't think it'll be a massive problem in the long run. But if any of those players, if they do make it to the knockouts, which I think they will,
They should.
they should. Yeah, they should. I think if they do make it there, they need that full strength team, and they need to have an attacking flow to their play, which those midfielders are essential for.
Very good points, well made there, gentlemen. Fantastic work. So the final team in Group A is Romania. Now, I think personally, obviously we're going to have a lot of more teams going through the group stages with the third place rule this tournament. Only 8 teams will be going out of the group stages. We pretty much all agree on the positioning of this group, right? Is it
Yeah.
It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
France,
I think
Switzerland,
so.
Romania, Albania.
Definitely.
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad
Yeah.
we all agree with
I
that.
think that's it.
So I think Romania, obviously, in a group with Albania, are going to arguably, of course, this is all on paper, but are going to get three points from that game. You could probably see them maybe getting a point from France or Switzerland if the game goes their way. So I think they will be getting through the group in that best place third spot. But just a couple of key players about Romania. They've got Razvan Rat, who is their 4th highest capped player, and he is part of a very good defensive campaign for Romania. Obviously, they've got some very good players at the back, like, well, Vlad Chiriches is well known for his time in Tottenham, and I think he's had a good season at Napoli, would you say?
Yeah. Well, Napoli's had a good season.
I don't really
Yeah.
know how much game. Yeah, I don't really know how much game
No.
time he got because I don't particularly follow that league massively. But
And
yeah, I guess
they
so.
have that Tatarusanu, is that how you say it? I believe he's a goalkeeper for someone in Syria. I can't remember who, though. Crap, who is it? Fiorentina, yes it
Fiorentina.
is. Yeah, so I think that they have had a very good defensive campaign. I think I saw a best 11 of the qualifying. I think Razvan Rat got in there. And he's a very experienced player as well, and I think he has spent time in the Premier League and around Europe. And I think they do have a lot better team on paper than a lot of people realise. They've got Gabriel Turha on the wing as well, who's a very good winger. And they've actually got a good young player coming through, Stanciu. Or is it Nikolai Stanciu or
Stanku.
Stanku?
Stanku, I think.
Stanku's they've got a striker called Stanku, and they've got a young midfielder called Stanku. What basically this youngster's been picked. I don't think he played a single game in qualifying. He's had 4 caps in the last 4 friendlies, and he scored 3 goals in those 4 games. So he's definitely my one to watch for this group personally. And of course they've got Stanku up front. I mean, do you agree with me where you could see them getting possibly more than 4 points in this group, or not really?
I don't think they'll get any more than 4 points.
No.
I think it'd have to be. I think it'd have to be Switzerland being exposed, like we just talked about their weaknesses, to even take a point.
It won't be France. I don't see France losing any
But
points.
I can't see, with France being the home nation and the favourites, they really can't afford to drop points early on.
I'm not sure who Romania have on the last game, because obviously they have France on the first game of the entire Euros. I'm not quite sure on the scheduling who they have on the last game.
They have
on the last
Albania
game,
last.
so they will be fighting
before the
So they will be
Switzerland-France
fighting
game.
hard for a point or a win against France or Switzerland. So, I mean, they could be a team where we see a lot of goals in their games.
Underdog status.
I think they
is
honestly will be a
one.
very enjoyable team to watch in this group, and I think they may get through third, possibly second if they're very, very lucky, and things go their way. But I think this is going to be a very, very good group, and I think it's definitely a good group for France. Obviously, as you'd probably all agree, but I think there's definitely some sleeper teams in here who could cause France maybe not take points away from France, but I definitely think they could be giving France some tough games in this group.
Yeah, especially after France recent, well, they gotten better, France, but after the World Cup and everything, they were massively criticised, and I think the fans still remember that.
Mm.
So
Yeah, and I think
if France get the fans behind them and they show that they actually can play football, then I don't think they can be stopped
Do you think-
until like semi-finals, finals.
Do you think the lack of obviously they haven't played any competitive football since the last World Cup because they've been hosted, they haven't had a qualifying campaign. Do you think that will affect France in any way?
Not necessarily. I think the players are in such good form that they just go out on the pitch
Yeah.
and just play the game.
I think that's yeah. I was about to say that. I think the fact that they're playing the regular starters for their clubs is means that the qualifying campaign's relatively insignificant, and them not having one. But I think they just need to be stable in the group. Obviously, like France's national team has had a lot of instability, and if there was to be any teams like Romania or Switzerland to rattle them in the groups, that could just mess with that stability that they're trying to create. But I think if they are stable in the group, then they definitely could go on to win it.
Okay, should we tie that up then in a nice pretty bow for Group A?
Yes.
I think that's a good way to wrap it up, yeah.
Alright, so on to Group B, we've got England, Russia, Slovakia and Wales. And I think it's only fitting to start with... Let's go Russia then. Let's go Russia.
Okay, Russia, a team that, of course, Sweden had in the qualifying stage. So I've watched pretty much all their qualifying games. And they're looking like a really interesting team this Euros. Not only because they got through in second place, but also they only conceded 5 goals in the qualifying stage. Also having a goal difference of 16, they finished. They caused a lot of problems for Austria, who won that group, and they've been looking in good form upcoming to this tournament. But they've also kind of rotated a bit with the players they've been playing, just to probably see who fits where, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like they got a really experienced backline, who is probably one of the best strength, like the biggest strength. The backline is really solid. They don't look like they're going to concede a lot, at least this Euro. And Akinfeev is a really good goalkeeper if he doesn't starts to screw up things.
Yeah.
So I've actually written there, but like. For Russia, a strength is Akinfeev being a really good keeper, but it's also one of their weaknesses because he has a tendency to completely...
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
He is really inconsistent, but he can be a world-class goalkeeper when he wants to. But also, in this Russia squad, there's a massive lack of big-name players. It's really only... like domestic players like Kokorin and Shatov and Bersutsky, like the Bersutsky brothers, that really stand out. The wingbacks I've never heard of before, and they like. I don't think they got a star anymore like Arshavin was when he played for them, or Kershakov, who's not in this squad. But they definitely got some upcoming talent like Kokorin and Zuba for Zenit. But, and Kokorin has also scored quite a few goals towards this tournament. But yeah, their attacking strength, like they got Zuba, he's probably like 6'4", I think 6'5",
he was.
and yeah.
I think he was their top scorer in qualifying as well, wasn't he? I think he scored 8 goals in qualifying. I think it was only Lewandowski and I want to say Muller who scored more.
Could be correct. Yeah. So they got 2 target men up front who can create a lot of problems for the opponent's backlines, and that's also Russia with their set pieces. They can be a real threat because of the height and the strength of the team. But I think they might lack some expressiveness because the midfield, it can be solid with Shatov being probably their most expressive player, scoring I think it was 16 goals in the Russian Premier League this season. But I think the midfield will struggle, but the backline and attackers will do the job enough, so they'll probably they got a good chance to get through this group. I think they'll get through probably in second place.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I think
we're definitely going to have some disagreements about this group then.
Yeah, I can definitely
Okay.
debate that. But
Because I've watched them and they've looked really solid and they've looked very good attackingly, and they've shown it with the goal difference and the play.
I think Russia are just really solid. They're not particularly expressive.
It's just
like
a discipline
or anything like that. They are just massively disciplined, and that, I don't know, that could work in their favour, I guess, against teams that are possibly going to be inexperienced. And I know we'll get onto it. England's team isn't exactly a team that's decided going into each game, so that a disciplined team against them could cause problems. So second in the group, it definitely is something to rule out. But
I think all of these teams, you could argue, could finish second in this group. I think there's not any position in this group which is a dead cert. I don't think it's particularly a...
Yeah, I was about to say. Even at the top of the group is debatable.
Well, I think Russia and Slovakia... I mean, you could easily argue Russia, Slovakia and Wales are the worst teams in this group, but you could also have an argument that Wales, Russia, and England could all top the group. So it's amazing, really. This
it's
group.
an interesting
very
group.
Interesting group. Yeah. Correct. Yeah, I agree with that. Do you want to move straight on to another team then? I mentioned Wales there. So Wales, I mean, had an unbelievable qualifying campaign. I mean, this is their first major tournament. I mean, it's really unbelievable, and I'm really excited to see them there because they have had a fantastic qualifying campaign. To get through a group with Belgium, Bosnia, Herzegovina, and of course Israel were in there as well, who aren't exactly pushovers. And they've been showing promise ever since, unfortunately, the late Gary Speed passed, and then of course they bring in Chris Coleman, and they've very much kept this. I mean, the way they play, it's almost like an onslaught. It's just fantastic. I mean, they can go at you and attack with players like Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey, but they can also sit back. I think they beat Belgium 1-0. I think that was they needed to win that game, and I think they just sat back, and then they just got one goal. And then, I mean, they're a really interesting team, and honestly, they were my picks for second before you said Russia. So, I mean, I think our opinions on this group are going to be very different, but. I mean, obviously, their captain is their captain Ashley Williams? I don't think it is. I'm not 100%. I think it may be Aaron Ramsey.
He was Ashley Williams before this tournament. I'm not sure.
But anyway, I mean, they've got leaders throughout that team. You've got a Champions League winner in Bale. You've got Ramsey. I mean, you've got inspirating. Is that a word? Inspiring. Thank you very much. Players like Joe Ledley, who's just come back from a broken leg, I think, and been included in the team. And then you've got. Ben Davies, Premier League players all over the place, Hennessy. You've got, who's a good goalkeeper in my opinion, you've got a fantastic team there, which has been built on solidarity, and it's one of the few teams in this tournament who are there as a team, rather than a lot of individuals, and I think through the qualifying campaign, the team has rarely changed, and I think it's benefited Wales fantastically, and they are such an exciting team to watch on their day. And they can be so disciplined as well, and I think they are going to... I mean, I would personally say I think they could go as far as the semi-finals, personally. I think they're that good, and what you were saying about Russia earlier, about not having that talisman like Arshavin anymore, you look at a world-class player like Gareth Bale, and they can do anything. Yeah. They can do anything in this tournament. If they can really do anything and go as far as they want to, in my opinion.
He needs to stay fit. If Bale doesn't stay fit, they're nothing, I think. Even if they play like a team, just having that star play in Bale, I don't think they can... I don't think they'll get through without him. So if he stays fit, I think they might get out of the groups.
Yeah.
But I haven't been convinced when I've been watching them recently.
Well, they have one... sorry, go on.
Yeah, I think that's one thing they kind of count on, the fact that they are such a solid team with such passion, but then they also have Gareth Bale to rescue them from the death kind of thing. So I think he'll definitely... I know he probably is the talking point of the Wales team, but he also has to be the talking point of the Wales team because he does just do that something special for them every so often. But like you said, I think that, like you said, they had an incredible qualifying campaign. But I think the best thing about them is like their passion. I know we talked about them together as a team, but there's no expectations for them to even qualify. Now that they're here, there's probably going to be no expectations for them to go forward in the tournament, and I think that works for them. They're just desperate to prove everybody wrong, and they have such a wide scale of players in their squad. Like, I know you didn't mention him when you were talking about all the individual players, but David, being a Birmingham fan, it sounds biased, but David Cottrell is his set pieces are incredible. He's had a brilliant end to the season coming back from injury for Birmingham, and has always been really good for Wales. And along with all the players you mentioned, I do actually. It pains me to say it, being an England fan.
How many teams do you support?
They are a good team.
Glory hunter, man.
Yeah, I mean, they are a really good team.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. You've also got that obvious rivalry with England in this group, but they also have some. They do have great players. They obviously have Premier League winner Andy King in that squad, Joe Allen. So they are full of Premier League players. Don't laugh at that. And you've got Sam Vokes, who had a good season at Burnley.
I actually choked on my water.
Right.
I'm sorry.
And you've got Robson Canoe, Hal Robson Canoe as well. So they have got players who can make things happen. Although they're not big name players at club level, for this Wales team they really step up and really, really play well. And yeah, I think they'll I honestly think they will definitely get through this group.
Yeah, that's what.
One thing I will. Sorry, go on, Elliot.
That's with this group. Like, that's probably what signifies this group. Is basically teams that needs to stay together as teams to win. I think like Bale could could score some goals, but if the defense won't do their work, they won't get through. Russia, if they don't play as a team, if Cochrane doesn't get any goals, they won't score. They won't win. They won't get through. It's the same with Slovakia, who I'm gonna cover soon. If their wingers don't get any goals, if they don't get any chances created, they won't win. So it's basically just a team effort, this whole group. Because we don't know how England are going to do under pressure.
No. I mean, that argument could be made for any team, arguably.
Yeah. Yes, of course.
I was also going to, even alongside the pressure thing, I was going to talk about it in the England segment, but I think it's appropriate to talk about it now. England could get caught up, or Wales could also do the same, in the fact that there is an England-Wales game within this group, and that could work in Russia's favour. It could also work in Wales's favour as well, because I think that game, as close, this is a really close group, but I think a lot of people are just particularly looking forward to an England-Wales rivalry match, and it could completely overshadow the fact that there's a bigger picture in that two people have to go through from this group, or certainly go through the group, and then obviously third place as well. And if that game overshadows the bigger picture, it could work in Wales's favour if England get caught up in it. But on the flip side, it could also work the other way, in that Wales get caught up in trying to beat England and forget that there's other two teams that they can beat.
I mean, this is very much a once in a lifetime Wales squad. I mean, it's hard enough to qualify, but to qualify in such an impressive way, where people are talking about you even getting through the group stages, and I think that it's a very exciting time to be Welsh and interested in football with this Wales side. And the way we were talking about Gareth Bale there, of course, if he does stay fit, he has only had 4 players in the entirety of qualifying who have scored more goals than him. You've got Lewandowski, Muller, Jaiba, who is also in this group, and Ibrahimovic, who have all scored more goals than him. Looking at it, England don't have that same single talisman that you could say Wales have, and is that the one factor that is going to push Wales ahead in this group? Because we talk so much about star players at this tournament. I know I just made the point about them being such a unit, but I really think that key player in Bale is actually going to push them that one step further and definitely get them out of this group. Anyway, I feel like I'm rambling now and just repeating the same things over and over again. Next team we're going to talk about. Do you want to just go straight from Wales to England then? Do you think that's the natural transition there?
I think it's good.
Yeah, I think we could. Yeah, we've all been watching England games. England's hope for the Euros, I'd say, are relatively good, personally. But I think England's biggest weakness is England has such a huge, although the squad size is the same, it's a huge squad, in that there is no team to start. Roy Hodgson's got a really difficult choice, I think, in any line of the team, whether it be defence, midfield, and even attack, as to what team he actually puts out. But England really do have the potential to do well at this tournament. They've got a really young team, and it's a team that's... England have had problems with scoring goals in the past, and now we've got Kane and Vardy, with as well as Rooney, who's proven for England and is still, as much criticism as he gets, is still a huge asset for England. But it's if England turn up at this tournament. We've qualified perfectly, won all 10 games, conceded just 3 goals. It's all brilliant on paper, but it's whether we can do it. I mean, we even beat Germany in a friendly. I know that Germany's team wasn't particularly strong, but still the fight was there, which hasn't previously been there for England, really. It seemed to matter a bit more. I think obviously the big story with the squad is with Drinkwater being left out, given that he won the Premier League. But I don't think that's too much of a bad decision. In midfield, Rashford obviously is in the squad as well, which is interesting in how young he is, but he's also
I think it's well deserved.
in good form.
I think it's well deserved.
Yeah, I
You
think
should bring in form
I
players.
personally-
That's my opinion.
I think none of the decisions that Roy's made with the squad you can argue against. There is maybe Wilshere. There's an argument against him going, given that he hasn't played much football this season at all. But obviously he is a big name player, and I can put a case forward for him going in that his experience for England, and if he's fit, then he's going to be good. But England really are going to have a problem in what squad they put out and whether they can live up to their strengths and utilise the form of Kane and
Personally,
Vardy.
I completely disagree with the Drinkwater being left out is a good decision, and then moving on to Rush.
I wouldn't say it's a good decision, but I say it's a
Justifiable
justifiable decision.
I mean, the guy won the Premier League, and he pretty much played in all of Leicester's games. I don't think that can really be ignored. And I think the fact he has been left out, I think personally affects that team quite a lot. I think a lot of players we always, as England fans, we always moan about Rooney not playing well. There are other players in there as well, like Wilshere. Do you think in their minds, even though there is all this talent coming through, this young talent, do you think these players are actually fighting for their positions? Because it seems to me they're almost guaranteed places no matter how well they play or how badly they play.
I can see it with some players. I definitely agree with you at some extent. Like with Jordan Henderson and Jack Wilshere, they've almost walked their way into the squad. I want to say reluctantly, but I don't really know. I think it's very.
I think Drinkwater being left out of the team is a big travesty, especially in that position. I mean, we have Eric Dyer, but apart from that, we don't have any sort of defense. Like, I don't want to say defensive midfielder because that's not really what Drinkwater is, but almost
a central midfielder with
defensive-minded midfielder. Because after Dyer, I mean, you've got to look at it. In my opinion, Dyer has to play every game because England, without an actual central defensive midfielder who has not been moulded into that, like shaped into that, like Gerrard was, but that is their primary position. I think if you don't have one of those with that England defence, I think they're going to be in real trouble. So I think not taking Drinkwater is a really, really poor decision, especially if Dyer gets injured.
But I still feel like this England squad brings out a new kind of optimism within like the English fan base. I feel like England are turning into a reverse Liverpool, if you could say that. Like Liverpool always say this year is our year, but England fans always say that we're gonna absolutely flop this tournament. Like they have no faith in the squad, they have no faith in the manager, they have no faith in the way they play. But like this squad is actually getting praise from England fans, which I haven't heard in all my years, which are not that many. But I feel like there's something new and interesting about the squad.
I personally think the squad has been. I think it's very much. I think like we were saying about Wales, their strength as a team. I think England is very much a team of individuals, which could be a squad, but isn't. For example, I believe they played Portugal and they started Rooney, Vardy, Kane, and Ali. Dele Alli plays central midfield where he pretty much hasn't played all season. He's been playing behind Kane. Rooney played attacking midfield behind Kane and Vardy. Kane and Vardy. I mean, Kane finished top scorer, didn't play up front on his own all season. Rooney, I don't think played two strikers all season. And Vardy, I mean, I don't really know if he was being asked to do a role that he's not used to. But I mean, for a lot of England's games, he has been playing wide. Or, I mean, they've been put into the team because it looks nice, but I don't think the strengths are really being played to of the individual players.
Yeah, I think that's what when I was mentioning the selection problem, I think there's going to have to be a big name left out for that team to be at its full strength, and I think it's going to have to be Rooney or Vardy for me. But I couldn't leave Vardy out based on form, because I think to play to England's strength, Vardy and Kane both have to start, and Rooney. I can't see a place for him in the team because I'd also put Dele Alli above Rooney in behind the strikers. I don't know whether that's as much as I rate Wayne Rooney. God, that was difficult to say. I don't really know, but then again, Daniel Sturridge is also going, and Daniel Sturridge is a goal scorer. So that's what I think. It's just a really difficult. I do feel for Roy Hodgson in a way that. He almost has to cater for every player's form and every fan's expectation of those players playing, if that makes sense. But I don't think that's going to be possible.
Yeah, that's what I brought up before as well. Like now, the fans actually have expectations, which they actually think that England are going to do well in this tournament because of the reason for the players, how you played in the qualifiers. And you actually got strikers in form that can score goals, even in the international level. So I feel like you got a great chance to win this group. But if everything doesn't work out as they wanted, like if Roy Hodgson doesn't get the team sheet right, then you can lose points against easier teams like Russia and Slovakia and Wales.
The one interesting selection I wanted to note, and it's not really been discussed from what I've seen, and I don't particularly think he doesn't deserve to be there. In fact, I'd say he should be there. I think Raheem Sterling is a very interesting pick for the fact that he is literally the only winger in that squad. So I don't know what the plan is there. I mean, I don't know what you guys think. I mean, personally, I'm not a fan of an unbalanced team. But I think if you're not going to take Townsend or
I was just about to mention Townsend when you mentioned Sterling.
It just worries me that he's going to justify playing Vardy. He's going to play Vardy on the wing just so he can say he played Vardy. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, this is what when I mentioned the selection. That's exactly what I was talking about, and he's taken Raheem Sterling, and I think he'll play Raheem Sterling. And for me, I can't see a place for Sterling in the team the way I want England to play. Especially when we only have one. I mean, you have Lallana as well, but is Lallana really a natural winger?
I don't think he is.
So, yeah, I question Sterling's place in the team and even place in the squad because I think Andros Townsend would have been a better pick personally.
So I don't agree with that.
I genuinely do.
I do.
I genuinely do, based on form and based on the fact that how it with the flow of the team.
I think his first 11 was massively has taken a massive hit with the injury of Danny Welbeck because he plays very well for England, and I think he was probably going to be that player who starts on the wing with Sterling and they alternate. And then how can you drop Sterling just because the other winger? You know what I mean? So. It's interesting. It's very interesting. I don't know if Welbeck was going to be in his starting 11. Personally, he was in mine until he got injured.
Oh, I think for me, Welbeck for England would walk into the team based on his goal-scoring record. But it's probably a bit of a blessing in disguise for Roy Hodgson that Welbeck is injured, because I mean he scored 6 goals in the qualifying, which was more than. I was only Rooney scored more, I think, or 7.
Yeah,
so,
four of those were penalties, but
still, Welbeck. Can you imagine a strike force where you'd have to pick from Vardy, Kane, Welbeck, Rooney, and Sturridge if you still classify Rooney as a striker? But like, just reinforcing my Sterling point. And you're saying you didn't agree with it. I don't mean as in Sterling's individual play. I don't agree with him being in the squad. I mean with the flow of the squad. I don't think Sterling fits into it. as a natural winger, and especially with the attackers we've taken.
Do you think we should move on from England because we could go on about this all day?
Yeah, we could
Okay,
really talk
go
about
on.
it
The
for
last
hours,
team
so
in the
yeah,
group
let's
then is Slovakia. So
Slovakia, an interesting team to say the least. A team that really needs the star players to perform if they're gonna have a chance in this group. And with the star player, of course, it's gonna be Marek Hamsic, the Napoli central midfielder, attacking midfielder, who's scored an absolute screamer just a day ago, 2 days ago.
very underrated
Against,
player.
Definitely underrated, and but he's been a bit overlooked this season for Napoli since Higuain has been having such a good season, and Napoli finishing second, almost taking the Scudetto off Juventus. But in Marek Hamsic, they got a world-class player that can perform at an international level and can score goals and can provide chances for the strikers. Adam Nemec is probably the ones you maybe ever heard of. He scored a few goals in the qualifiers. But Slovakia also beat Germany just a few days ago and looked really solid playing that game. So they've got some kind of a unit going on there as well, which is interesting, I think, because Slovakia you don't really see as a nation that can upset. Really, it's just Slovakia is Slovakia. They'll go out to play and they'll do their best. Slovakia is probably known for their fighting spirit, like Russia.
Their work rate.
But I think, like with Russia, they got a good backline. In Slovakia, they haven't. They got the opposite. The backline is pretty atrocious, I think personally. And one big point in the backline is Martin Skrtel, who I personally think is a horrible centre back. Controversial.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I just don't really know. Like you said, this is another team that could group together and be a good squad. And I don't necessarily agree that their defence is the weakest part of the team. I think that it's probably creativity, excluding Hamsic, that is probably going to be their weakest thing. And they're also quite an old squad. I was just looking through the squad. A majority of the squad is over 30, apart from a few players in the midfield, which I don't know whether that's going to. I don't know whether that's going to work. I think it'll probably work against them in the Euros, where it's the majority of the teams are surrounded by youth.
Yeah, like they got a squad with the wingers that are probably going to play is Vladimir Weiss and Miroslav Stoch, who are both like former wonder kids, if you could say that, who had a really bright future both for City and Chelsea. If they can live up to a bit of their wonder child standard at 26, 27, or however old they are now, I think they can create some problems. Especially against France, actually, because of Sagna and what's it called, Ebra, because they still got the speed, even though they play for lower league teams and worse league teams. But I think the biggest problem that Slovakia is going to have is their defense, like the defensive work. How are they going to defend?
Yeah, and I think I'll just reinforce my point I was saying about the creativity. I think you mentioned Weiss and Stock being another place where they could create something. Both those players don't actually play that many games a season for their clubs. I know Weiss is in the Qatar league, so for me his club career is relatively irrelevant because it is just a money move that he's out there for. And then I know Stock doesn't start the majority of Bursaspor's games, so it's if they can get that creativity, they could do something. Whether their defence stands up to it, they could do something. But I feel that both those things could be letting them down.
Can we agree that
at some point
Slovakia is the weakest team in this group?
I was just going to make that point. I was just going to ask you if you agreed with me, and I was going to say that I think that Slovakia would probably be the weakest team.
I think this group is a very interesting group because I think you have a lot of teams that can cancel each other out or beat each other. So you could have, say, England beat Wales, Wales beat Russia, Russia beat Slovakia, Slovakia beat England. So we can end up with a group here where a lot of teams are on even points, and we could have a very, very tight group, especially for second and third.
I'll just I believe we're about to move on from Slovakia, but I'll just make another point. Slovakia are in tremendous form.
Yeah, they haven't lost in 6 or 7 games, I think.
They lost against Belarus when they'd already qualified.
That's true.
And lost to Spain. But apart from that, they haven't lost a game. The previous loss before that was Russia, which was in May of 2014. In a friendly, which is a brilliant record. They've beaten some good teams. They've beaten Ukraine. They beat Spain in there, I remember.
Yeah.
They've beat the Czech Republic. They could just... Well, they beat Germany the other day. They could do something, but I can't see it. On paper, I cannot see it.
I think this is going to be an interesting part then, because I think we're all going to have differing opinions. So individually, who do you think are going to finish top of this group?
England.
Yeah, England, reluctantly.
Yeah, despite what I said, I think this is I'm going to say England as well. Okay, okay. So second, I'm very much. I think probably Wales will finish second. Actually,
Russia.
I think I'm actually going to go Wales top actually, and I'm going to go England second.
Ooh.
Oh right. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I think that depends on if Wales beat England.
I could see Wales getting 7 points from this group, beating Russia and Slovakia and drawing against England. Yeah. I can see that.
It's more trends and data. I can understand.
I think
Phil,
Wales
right.
being up for it, and if Bale stays fit, like you say, I can see them getting 7 points from this group and finishing top. And England second.
I go Russia second because I think they are a really good team when they get going. They are a squad that can really cause upsets, and with the strikers being like in the manner in the play style of Target Man, both of them. I think they can like get a few like easy West Ham goals, just hoofing it over the top and just Andy Carroll in it.
I think a West Ham goal counts as a free kick in the top corner nowadays.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think Dimi has taken that role over.
West Ham, yeah.
What about you, Michael?
I kind of want to agree with Elias and put Russia second. But part of me thinks that Wales may come second. I think it very much depends on the Wales-England game, on which way that goes. But I think England will top the group, like I said, and I think probably Russia will finish. I reckon Russia will beat Wales.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to put Russia second.
Okay, so are you both saying Wales third, or are you gonna put Wales bottom of the group? Okay.
No.
Okay.
I'm gonna put Wales third.
Okay, so Slovakia bottom.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's such a tough group. I make all my predictions with statements of regret, maybe.
England bottom.
Man, I'm really looking forward to this Euros now. I've just realised.
It's gonna be really good.
Yeah. As more I talk about it, the closer we were just saying. Off microphones, away from the podcast. This Euros, when we do our research on it, is really close.
Yeah.
There is some teams there that could just turn up and beat those individuals that are playing as teams. So I think that's one of those groups. This is one of those groups here that could be like that.
Yeah.
So I think we are all done for this episode, our first ever episode of In the Mixer podcast, or In the Mixer the podcast, however you want to phrase it. I hope you guys enjoyed what you're watching. Elias and Michael, you got any last words?
Thank you for listening. I guess
Russia gonna finish second in Group B.
Lastly, have either of you spoken about who you think is going to win the Euros? And if you do,
Belgium.
No, I meant to say yes or no. Okay, never mind. Predictions will be in our third episode when we've discussed all the groups. If you want to get in touch with the podcast, email at inthemixerpodcast@gmail.com or get in touch on Twitter at inthemixershow. And yeah, please give us a like on YouTube or a rate on iTunes or however you listen to this. Any way you can show support, that'll be fantastically appreciated. And yeah, it's goodbye from me, Phil. And goodbye for these guys, I guess.
And me, Elias. Hello.
And me,
Thank
Michael.
you for listening to this clusterfuck of a podcast. Goodbye.
Oh, we finished.